It's past midnight in Melbourne, and Rafael Nadal is 2 sets down and losing the 2022 Australian Open final. Across the net is Daniil Medvedev, younger, fresher, ranked number 2 in the world, playing beautifully. He has taken the first 2 sets. In this format, no man has come back from 2 sets down to win this final in almost half a century. The statisticians are already writing the ending. The younger man is going to win. And on the other side of the net is a 35-year-old whose own foot is held together more or less by willpower and injections. A man who a few months earlier wasn't sure he would ever play professional tennis again. Hold there, because to understand why this is the moment that defines Rafael Nadal, not one of his French Open titles, not the 14 trophies on the clay he owned, you have to understand where he was standing 6 months before this night. He was standing on the edge of retirement. Rafael Nadal spent his entire career playing a style of tennis that his own body could not really afford. His biographer, Christopher Clary, wrote a whole book about him and called it The Warrior, and the title is The Diagnosis. Nadal didn't glide through the matches the way Federer did. He waged them. Every point a physical war. Every ball chased down as if the tournament depended on it. A level of effort that opponents said was almost impossible to match. One rival, John Isner, described it exactly like this: no matter what the score is, Rafa's not going to give a single inch out there. He just seems to have this motor that seems to never end. The motor won him everything. It also cost him everything as well, slowly over 20 years, because you cannot play that way, throwing your body every ball for 2 decades without the body sending you the bill. And by 2021, the bill came due in the worst possible form. Not a muscle, not a tendon that heals, a chronic condition in his foot, a structural problem in the bone itself, the kind that doesn't get better with rest because it's the shape of the thing that's wrong. It became so painful he could barely walk. He shut his season down, and for months the question wasn't whether Rafael Nadal could win another Grand Slam, it was whether he would ever play again at all, or whether his career had just quietly ended without a final match. That is the man standing 2 sets down in Melbourne, not an invincible champion having an off night. A 35-year-old who months earlier had every reason to believe he was finished, playing a younger, healthier man and losing. To understand what happened next, you have to go back to a tennis club in Manacor, on the island of Mallorca, and to the man who made him. Rafael Nadal was coached from the age of 4 by his uncle Tony, and Tony was not, by his own admission, a brilliant technical coach. What Tony built into his nephew was something else entirely. Clary describes it as the real genius of the whole thing. My main goal was that Rafael would be self-sufficient. Tony's whole method was a code of behaviour. No excuses, no shortcuts, no blaming the racket, the court, the weather. A boy who would, in Clary's phrase, cultivate a taste for challenges and effort, who would learn to suffer on purpose and not complain about it. This was a kid who never once threw his racket in anger in his entire professional career, a discipline almost unheard of in the sport. He learned to start every season, as one rival put it, with the humility to begin again from zero, year after year after year, as if he'd never won anything. That is the machinery that was still running inside the 35-year-old in Melbourne. The foot was failing, the younger man was better on the night, but the thing Tony built, the refusal to give an inch, the ability to keep starting again, that part of Rafael Nadal was not injured. It never got injured. It was the last thing standing. And there's a specific quality to it that other champions admit they never had. Mats Wilander, a great champion himself, tried to explain how Nadal did what he did and landed on something that isn't about talent at all. It's a dedication to the competitive fight, knowing that if you lose, it's going to hurt like crazy, but yet you're willing to take that chance again and again and again. That's something we never had. Read that again. Willing to take that chance again and again, knowing it's going to hurt like crazy. That's not a description of a tennis stroke. It's a description of a person. It's the willingness to walk back into pain on purpose without the guarantee that it will be rewarded, and to do it one more time than anyone else is prepared to. That was the thing that was fully intact when almost everything else about Nadal's body had started to fail. So, 2 sets down, past midnight, his body compromised, the odds against him, Nadal did the only thing he had ever really known how to do. He didn't do anything spectacular. That's the strange part. There was no sudden burst of untouchable brilliance. What there was instead was the motor. He simply refused to lose the next point, and then the next one, and the one after that. He made Medvedev win every single ball, gave away nothing. And slowly, over the 3rd set and 4th and into the 5th, he turned a match that was already decided into a match that was not, and it was not quick and it was not clean. This was a war of attrition that stretched past 5 hours deep into the Melbourne night, both men visibly emptying. But here's the difference the whole match turned on. Medvedev was a healthy 25-year-old running out of energy, and Nadal was a 35-year-old on a broken foot who had trained his entire life under Tony to keep going after the energy was gone. The longer it went, the more it became not a test of tennis, but a test of who could suffer longer. And suffering longer was the one contest Rafael Nadal had never lost. He clawed back one set, then another, and then deep into the 5th, in the early hours of the morning, after more than 5 hours on a foot that should not have been able to carry him through 1 hour, Rafael Nadal won the Australian Open. From 2 sets down at 35, months after wondering if he'd ever play again, it was, at that moment, a record. The 21st men's Grand Slam title, more than any man in the history of the sport had ever won. And he said afterward the honest thing, that just a month or 2 earlier, he had no idea if he would ever be back on the court like this at all. Here is why this is the moment and not one of the 14 French Opens. On the clay, Nadal was expected to win. He was the greatest clay court player who ever lived. Dominance there was the natural order of things. Watching him win the French Open Open was watching a master do the thing he was about to do. Melbourne 2022 was the opposite. It was Nadal with everything stripped away. The surface that wasn't his best, the body that was failing, the years that were supposed to have finished him, the younger man who was simply better on the night. Everything that had made him look great was gone or breaking. And out of all that, with none of the usual advantages, he won anyway. Because the thing that actually made Rafael Nadal great was never the clay, and it was never the forehand. It was the motor that never ended, and the code Tony built. The willingness, as one former champion put it, to commit fully to the fight knowing that if you lose, it will hurt like crazy, and to take that chance again and again and again. Most players never had that. Nadal had almost nothing else left that night in Melbourne, and it was enough. He walked off the court at 1:30 in the morning on a foot that could barely hold him, holding a trophy that months earlier he'd assumed he would never touch again.